In Unit 2, we started the unit putting a lot of emphasis upon reading instruction. You first learned the phonics of this language. That is to say, the sound that letters individually and in combination with other letters make. And we learned as well word recognition skills, the ability to recognize words which are usually fairly short words, which very commonly, very frequently appear in print, and which we need to be able to recognize instantaneously without having to sound them out each time. You learned, therefore, to read initially silently, and then we've started developing the ability to read out loud and with good pronunciation, and of course with comprehension. And then we moved into another topic, and that topic was one's daily routine, learning to talk about things that we do on a daily basis as well as on a weekly basis. And we learned some time expressions as well as telling time, which allowed us to situate the different activities in our daily routine, our daily activity, as well as in our weekly schedule. We moved from there into another very important topic, and that has to do with verbs that I referred to as modals. I could, you should, you must, you may, I can, and then committing ourselves, not really a modal, but it's an expression which is also important for the context that I'm about to speak about. I'm going to. Well, that context that I'd like to speak about now, in which modals are very frequently used, is problem solving. It's probably the most common situation in which we use these kinds of words. We say, well, I must do this, but I can't do this, and so I could do this or this or this, but I think I really should do this, and so I'm going to do this. Problem solving. And what more common, sadly, type of problem do we deal with than interpersonal relationships? Well, to this point, you know some interpersonal relationship kind of vocabulary, such as man, woman, boy, girl, family, or husband, wife. You have some exposure to those words, but we'd like to get a little bit more into detail into both relationships which are platonic or friendship-based relationships, as well as romantic relationships, going from the point of being strangers one to another, and then meeting one another, and becoming friends, maybe falling in love, getting married, and sadly in some cases divorce and separation as well. So all of this vocabulary is going to allow us to deal with problems that human beings face, and which frequently will need the use of these modals: can, could, may, should, etc. So one more point I want to make is we won't only deal with interpersonal relationships as we talk about problem-solving situations. There are other kinds of problems, of course, that people deal with, and the kinds of things that on New Year's Day we make resolutions about, those kinds of problems that we face as well. However, an important point I'd like to make is that because you now have the ability to read to some extent and to derive meaning from printed text, we're not going to go overboard. We're not going to totally throw out all the images and the pictures within the ULAT, and certainly not the sound. But we are going to start to present some vocabulary for which it's difficult to take a picture and represent an idea. And so you'll start to see words presented to you in written form with a written explanation as to in the language you're learning, not in your native language, but a written explanation giving you an understanding or definition of what that new word means. Of course, we're not going to put primary focus at this point upon the written word. We still want to develop your oral abilities, and so a lot of work with those words, after they're initially presented in written form, in printed text, is going to be done orally, where you'll hear me define a word as you click on a link to a sound file, and you'll have to remember what that word was without seeing it in printed form. Okay, that's enough introduction. Time now to learn about interpersonal relationships and other types of problem-solving situations in Lesson 2.28.